Hello and welcome along to this edition of Games and Goals on RTB News. I'm Adam Reed in London and this is Reuters. Coming up on the programme. Germany smash 8 past San Marino as some question the quality of World Cup qualifiers. A rivalry back in focus as Mourinho and Wenger meet again. We'll look ahead to Man United v Arsenal. And it's bye-bye MLS. Lampard and Gerrard call time on their US adventures. First, though, to Germany, and their forward Thomas Müller has questioned the standard of some of the teams in World Cup qualifying after they beat San Marino 8-0. He said that playing a team of amateurs put the German players at risk of injury. Germany, though, weren't the only side to score a hatful, as Jonathan Crane now explains.
The question for Germany and San Marino was not if they would win, but by how much. In the event, Joachim Löw's second-string side put 8 goals past the Minnows without reply. Former Arsenal forward Serge Gnabry grabbing a hat-trick on his international debut. Anything Germany could do, Belgium could do. Well, not better, but at least the same on the goal-scoring front. The Red Devils beat Estonia 8-1. Romelu Lukaku chipped in with 2. Reigning European champions Portugal also had an easy ride, seeing off Latvia 4-1. Cristiano Ronaldo among the goals. He could even afford to miss a penalty. Maybe the Real Madrid man had other things on his mind, such as looking immaculate for his country's version of the mannequin challenge, the latest craze sweeping the internet. Statuesque could also be used to describe some of the defending in Europe this week. Italy and Spain were both 4-0 winners over hapless Liechtenstein and Macedonia respectively. France edged Sweden 2-1 thanks to goals from their Premier League stars Paul Pogba and Dimitri Payet. Away from Europe, Brazil stamped their authority on South American qualifying with a 3-0 win over great rivals Argentina. Moaning Messi morphed into Magic Messi a few days later, though, as the Albi Celeste beat Colombia 3-0 to lie 5th in the group. And finally, spare a thought for United States boss Jurgen Klinsmann. Previously linked with the England job, Klinsmann has seen his team slump to 2 qualifying defeats in just 4 days. The latest, a 4-0 reverse in Costa Rica. Suffice it to say, the US press are not amused. Jonathan Crane for RTB News.
Now, we saw the mixed fortunes of Argentina there, and Lionel Messi led a player boycott against talking to any media following Argentina's 3-0 win against Colombia on Tuesday. That follows allegations and criticisms made in the press against the team and its players. Now, Messi was joined by the rest of the squad after the win, speaking out against a lack of respect and accusations by a radio station that teammate Ezequiel Lavezzi smoked marijuana after a training session, which he strongly denies. Argentina were beaten 3-0 by rivals Brazil last week before putting themselves back in qualifying contention with that Colombia win.
We've received a lot of accusations, a lack of respect, and have never said anything. But I believe that this has to change. The accusation against Lavezzi is a very serious one, because if it's said and we do not say anything, people believe it's true, which happens because a lot of people believe what they hear, and we prefer to put a stop to it. We are very sorry that this has to be the way, but there is no other option.
Now, joining me this week to look back at the World Cup qualifiers and discuss everything else in the world of football is former West Ham and Everton striker Tony Cottee and Reuters senior sports analyst Nigel Stevenson. Tony, let's start with you. Now, Thomas Müller, fairly outspoken in his criticism of World Cup qualifying. It's been a long-running debate. Should FIFA now sit up and take notice that qualifying should change?
Well, of course they should, yeah. I mean, I fully agree with Thomas Müller. You know, no one ever wants to stop these so-called minnows competing to qualify for the World Cup. But, you know, Germany scoring 8 goals and Belgium scoring 8 goals, it's just ridiculous. Surely there must be room for the big boys to play against each other and try and find some sort of format so we get all the big nations qualifying for the World Cup, but also give the smaller nations, you know, 1 or 2 places to qualify as well. But something's got to be done, but you just worry with FIFA where they're going to go with this.
Now, Now, Nigel, we've seen that South America is obviously a bit of a hot potato at the moment, with Argentina leading a players' revolt. But their qualifying structure is different, and they all qualify together. Are they more battle-hardened when it comes to tournament football? Bear in mind the quality of the opposition all the way through.
Very much so. I mean, they're in a group of 10, and there are no weak sides. You know, you pick one that might have a bad year, but there aren't any weak sides. They've already played 10 each, and they get 4.5 places. So obviously. Possibly a fifth. So by the time those 5 get through, yeah, they are pretty battle hardened. They've played a lot more games. They've played a lot more together. So yeah, I mean, it'd be much easier if you've qualified because you've already got that nucleus. So yeah, I would think it does favour them. I'm not saying it's an advantage, but it certainly makes it easier for them, I would think.
Now, we just saw there that there obviously is quality there. There's sides sitting outside of the qualifying areas to get into the World Cup. But Argentina, the results not necessarily going their way. Messi leading a players' revolt, Tony. If the results aren't going their way, are they entitled to stand up and say something? Or as a player, how do you feel about when criticism comes the way of a team?
Well, I mean, they answered that by winning their second game, didn't they? But if you're going to be losing to Brazil, you're going to leave yourself open to accusations and questioning the performance. Argentina have got some fantastic players, and if you look at that qualifying group, they should be doing a lot better. So my answer or my advice to Lionel Messi would be to make sure your team starts to win a few more games. You won't have to answer the questions.
It was interesting to see that there is quality there, because Aguero stood next to him, Mascherano was there. They've got the players.
And if they get to the World Cup, and it is an if at the moment, they will be one of the favourites. But you have to do well to qualify. No one's got a God-given right to get there. You can't just say we're Argentina, we're going to qualify for the World Cup. You have to earn that right.
Absolutely true. Now back over in Europe, and Gareth Southgate says that he's proved he can handle the big occasions as England manager. He was speaking after his 4th and final game as the country's interim boss. Now, England top their qualifying group after a 3-0 win over close neighbours and rivals Scotland on Friday. 4 days later, they looked to be on course to securing an impressive friendly win against Spain. An Adam Lallana penalty and a Jamie Vardy header gave England a 2-0 lead, and they held that advantage until the final few minutes. Iago Aspas pulled a goal back for the visitors, and then in the 6th minute of added time, Real Madrid's Isco poked home the equaliser. So how has Southgate's 4-game trial gone? Well, he is unbeaten as England boss with 2 wins and 2 draws from 4 games. It did start off well with a 2-0 World Cup qualifying win against Malta. There was also a hard-fought goalless draw against Slovenia, but the highlight was probably that 3-0 win over Scotland, although England were far from brilliant. And that friendly draw against Spain, a case of nearly but not quite. Now, Nigel, has Gareth Southgate done enough to get given the job full-time? Bear in mind, that's his 4-game stint over and done with.
Yes, and I say it without caveats, but there's no one else in the frame, as far as I'm aware, so there isn't a plan B, so yes, let's get on with it. And I think I've said on this show before, I believe that the national coach is a very different role to that of being a club coach because of the very nature of it. I suspect that he'll do quite well. Having seen what happened against Spain, though, you think you can't legislate for that. I don't blame Gareth Southgate for that. That's absolutely with the players. You have a game plan, you're 2-0 up, and it's the 89th minute? And they get 1. You think, fine, shut it down. Did Italy ever give away something like that? Never. Would Spain give it away? Never. And yet, you can feel it. You said you left the game.
I did. I was at Wembley and I left. We was 2-0 up. I got on the train and when it was 2-2. So,
it's that feeling of inevitability, though, isn't it?
It was unfortunate because it could have been a great result. Yeah. But I agree with Nigel. Gareth is the outstanding candidate. There is no one else. What on earth are the FA waiting for? Seriously, what are we waiting for? Let's just appoint him and get on with it.
So why have they waited? Why are they giving themselves time? Bear in mind the quick appointment of Sam Allardyce after the Euros. Why have they given themselves this block?
I suppose they're looking at possible other candidates, but the ones that you would like to maybe get the job, Eddie Howe, for example, Eddie's nowhere near ready for it. He needs another 2 or 3 years at Bournemouth. Let him keep developing, and then we'll get Eddie Howe in as manager. But at the moment, there is no one else, so please, let's get on with it. Unless everyone's settled down and it's an important World Cup qualifying campaign, and Gareth needs to know whether he's with the seniors or with the under-21s.
Well, time will tell, and we'll see what the FA do decide. Now, stay with us here on Games and Goals. Plenty still to come. Now, the best of enemies meet at Old Trafford this weekend. We'll look ahead to Manchester United against Arsenal. Now, the first match in the Premier League this weekend sees Manchester United host Arsenal and brings back together Jose Mourinho and Arsene Wenger for the first time since the Portuguese took over at Old Trafford. Now the sides have been in contrasting form this season, Arsenal unbeaten since the opening day, while United have only managed one league win in their last 5. The fixture has been crucial in determining title outcomes in the past, but the managers have also had quite a colourful history together as well.
He is a specialist in failure. I'm not.
If you declare yourself not in a race, you cannot lose it. That's simple as that.
If supposedly he is right and I am afraid of fail, it's because I don't fail many times.
Look, I haven't read the book and I certainly will not read it.
Can speak about the referees before the game, can speak about the referees after the game, can push people in the technical area, can cry in the morning, can cry in the afternoon, nothing happens, can be not achieve, keep the job, still the king. In this country, only one manager is not under pressure. Every other manager is under pressure.
Your job is to assess all the geniuses you can meet, and I leave you that job.
I played against Arsenal, I don't know, 12, 15, 18 times, I don't know. And only once he didn't moan.
I respect everybody and in my job and focus on what I love, that's football. And all the rest, honestly, doesn't concern me too much.
I have to cope with my defeats. Tonight he has to cope with his defeat. Okay. Bye.
Now, guys, we've seen that the two managers there have plenty of history, but Tony, why does Arsene Wenger always seem to struggle against Jose Mourinho?
I think it's tactically. I think Mourinho, two tremendous characters in the game, two fantastic coaches in their own way, but I mean, that record is just dreadful, isn't it, from Arsene Wenger? But I think tactically, I think Mourinho picks a team almost to stifle the way Arsenal play. We know how good Arsenal are going forward. That's not in question. But Mourinho will pick the team. He'll pick it defensively with the holding midfielders, and he will say, "Well, you know, we won't let them play, and then we'll hit them on the counter attack, and they'll almost play as an away team." And I think over the years, you know, you can't argue with Mourinho's record against Wenger is so much better.
We've seen both of those scenarios play out with Mourinho this season. A draw against Liverpool, and then they got battered away at Chelsea. But Nigel, is it different now that Mourinho's at Manchester United rather than with the safety net of Chelsea behind him?
Yes, because basically he still doesn't know what his best team is, and he hasn't selected all those players. He's basically inherited it, and he's still figuring out. And actually, it's probably surprised everybody, including him, how long it's taken. You know, given that Sir Alex Ferguson's been gone for a while, and there've been two people in there who've kind of thrown everything up in the air already, and he's now picking up the pieces. I think Manchester United will stick with him as long as it doesn't go terribly wrong. But he doesn't know what his best team is, and how to then set that up against. I mean, he knows Arsenal. That's the one thing that is fixed. He knows how they play, because that won't change. So he's now got to find something and trust some of these players who are extremely well paid but don't seem to fit into quite the moulds that he wants to dare I say, park the bus. But that's what he's going to do. I mean, Tony's tactically absolutely right. He will park the bus, but he'd like to win, and he just, I think he might. I just get that feeling that he's always got something up his sleeve against Arsenal. Well,
Tony, put your player's hat back on. You've got the choice of being a player in either dressing room this weekend. Which one do you go for?
Oh dear. I certainly would like to blow up front in that Arsenal team, because I think they've got so many talented players. As an ex-goal scorer, I would stand up front. I wouldn't run around at all. I'd let everyone do the work, the Ozils and the Sanchez, and I would just be tapping the ball into the back of the net. So I think at this moment, as we stand, I would rather be in the Arsenal team, because I think they've got some tremendous players. But Mourinho will get it right at Manchester United. It's just how long it will take.
And I think it depends on whether Carrick plays as well.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Absolutely
team selection is going to be key for Manchester United for this one. Now, elsewhere this weekend, Tony's old club West Ham, they face a London derby at home to Tottenham. Third place Manchester City, they travel to Crystal Palace. Everton are at home to Swansea. Current table toppers Liverpool are at Southampton, whilst Watford host Leicester on Sunday. And on Chelsea also go to Middlesbrough. Now, let's talk about the other games in the Premier League. The international breaks are out of the way, Nigel. How do you see we've got a good run up until Christmas now in the Premier League. How do you see things panning out with Liverpool obviously at the top at the moment?
I think it's kind of almost irrelevant what happens before Christmas. It seems like you've got a breakaway four at the moment with Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal. I don't think Tottenham are quite, surprisingly, but I don't think they're quite there. So those four seem to be getting away. But then you have Christmas, and Klopp's completely confused by Christmas because it's not a holiday like in Germany. So he knows now, having been through it once, he knows how tough it is. The others all know how tough it. Well, Conte doesn't, and nor does Guardiola. So it's a bit of a mystery for them. But I think whoever comes out strongest after Christmas, I mean, forget the next few games, actually. I don't think it's actually that relevant. See what happens through the Christmas and then after Christmas into January. Then you'll find out really where the race is going, in my opinion.
Well, that leads me on to Tony. Klopp has already bemoaned Liverpool's congested fixtures over Christmas. They've had a clear run of no European football, but Manchester City on New Year's Eve, less than 2 days later, they're supposed to be away at Sunderland. Negotiating these tricky periods are going to be make or break because you can isolate pockets of the season, can't you?
Yeah, I think Jurgen Klopp was always going to moan about the fixtures over Christmas and New Year. There was no doubt about that. Listen, he's a fantastic manager, been a breath of fresh air to the Premier League, but get over it. This is England. This is what we do at this stage in time. I personally would like to see the winter break come in, and just after the New Year period, play your Christmas New Year games, then have the winter break, and in that way people wouldn't be moaning about the fixtures so much. But if you've got to play twice in 2 days, I mean, is that not why they have 25 players nowadays, so you can rotate the squad?
And also, if you win that first one, you go on with. I mean, you can build an enormous amount of momentum going through into the January
I used to love
period.
those games. It's great. It's great for the fans.
Can't be
great
a
as a
player
player.
that doesn't,
You'd
surely.
rather play than train anyway. So I don't see what the problem is.
Now, just one question about momentum. West Ham, your old club, they've had a bit of an indifferent season. A couple of results have gone their way. A little bit of unrest with speculation about Payet. What can you see for them over the next few weeks and months?
Well, I think they've steadied the ship a little bit now. I mean, West Ham's biggest problem, we all know, they've played 17 games and not one forward has scored a goal, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. The problem also they've got, their two best forwards are injured, Sakho and Andy Carroll. Sakho is back in the squad now. Andy Carroll's not too far away. Once they get their forwards back, hopefully they should start to score a few goals. But West Ham will be all right. It was always going to be an indifferent season for them. You can see the London Stadium in the background there, and that was always going to cause problems, not just for the players, but for the fans and everything else that's going on. But Slaven Bilic, you can see him there. He's the right man for the club, and he will certainly settle things down. And West Ham will pick up slowly.
And just a low-key game against Tottenham at the weekend for them. Now, stay with us here on Games and Goals because there's plenty more still to come. It's the end of the US adventure for two former Premier League icons. Now over to the MLS, and Frank Lampard has left New York City FC. His final 2 games for the club ended in a 7-0 aggregate defeat to Toronto FC in the MLS playoffs earlier this month. The former England and Chelsea midfielder scored a goal every other game during his 2-year spell that did have its ups and downs. Now, 2 days after Lampard's announcement, another former England midfielder followed suit. Steven Gerrard said he will consider his next move after deciding to leave LA Galaxy. Gerrard scored 5 goals during 2 seasons in the MLS. After quitting the US, Gerrard revealed he does have options to continue playing and will make a decision in the next few weeks. Gerrard's Galaxy were beaten by Colorado Rapids in the MLS Cup playoffs. That was on penalties earlier in the month.
But I've got a bit of thinking to do over the next 2-3 weeks. I'm not ready to make a decision or finalise anything that I'm going to be doing moving forward. What I will say is I'm going home to spend some time with my family and basically go over my options and decide which is the best next challenge for me.
Now, Nigel, people had their criticisms and speculations over how Gerrard and Lampard would fare in the US. Do you think that they would have expected more from their time there?
No, I mean, you look at Lampard's scoring record, which you've just highlighted. I mean, what do you expect? They're in their 30s. You know, the difference is that I suppose that when you're Andrea Pirlo, nobody's ever seen you run very fast. You do sublime passes and you are absolutely brilliant. Gerrard and Lampard are players who compete in the middle of the field. They're up against people who are 17 to 25 who physically are going to be a bit stronger than them. That's normal. So, yeah, I think you have to sort of look at Wayne Rooney at Manchester United. He's all of 31. You know, you've got to get your context right. They had a very successful time, probably both right in saying that's probably enough now and will make their next decision. But I can't think that it was not successful for either of them.
They definitely have certain statistics, as we can see there, Tony, that are positives. Gerrard's assist record, Lampard's goal record. But does it basically prove that it is going to get harder for players to make an impact in the MLS because it's not necessarily somewhere that you can go in an early retirement?
I think a lot of it was, developing the brand really for American football. I mean, we know it was very popular 70s and 80s, and it had a tremendous dip, and now they're trying to build it up again, and as they are in China and many other places in the world. So the way to do that is to bring in the superstars. But the problem you got is the superstars aren't going to play there in the peak of their career. So you're always going to get your Lampards and Jerry. John Terry is a player who immediately springs to mind as maybe going to America or China at the end of this season. So I think they've done their job. They've gone there, they've raised the profile, they've done as best as they can. They've both got good records over there. I don't think you can point too many fingers at them. What I do want to see is them coming back to the Premier League and being developed as coaches or managers, and get them, keep them in the game.
Now, I just want to finally ask you. Now, you may have been in this in the same position as your playing career. You weighed up your options. Steven Gerrard's 36. What is there left to do for him as a player, if anything?
Well, my advice to Stevie is to play as long as possible. I think any ex-player would say that, because once your career's finished, it's very
time retired.
It's a long time retired, and it's very difficult, whatever you may choose. So I would say to Stevie, keep playing as long as possible. What he wouldn't want to do is to come back to the Premier League and play against Liverpool. And I don't think Liverpool can actually accommodate him in his team at the moment, so I don't think we'll see him playing in England. I think Brendan Rodgers at Celtic might be an option if he still wants to play. But as I just said a minute ago, I want to see Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, whatever it takes, get them back at Liverpool and Chelsea, get them to do their coaching badges, develop them as a manager under the great managers that are there at the moment, and let's see some good young English talent being kept in the game. There's too many good lads like that, good players they're leaving football for whatever reason. Keep them in the English game.
Very interesting to see what will happen next. And we'll leave it there for the second, guys. And away from football this week, Andy Murray fought back to beat Kai Nishikori in a gruelling contest and close in on a semi-final place at the ATP World Tour Finals. Murray had to come from a set down to win the match, which lasted over 3 hours. His progress to the last four is almost assured, barring an unlikely sequence of results. He's on course to meet Novak Djokovic in the London final, which would see a shootout to see who'd finish the year as world number one. Now, golfers spend a lot of time trying not to freeze on the course, but the big names on the European Tour were doing exactly that in Dubai this week to take part in the Mannequin Challenge. Rory McIlroy, we can see him there in the bunker, and Danny Willett were amongst those taking part and are still in with a chance of winning the Race to Dubai title. But Henrik Stenson is the man looking most likely. He heads the standings going into the Tour Championship, which finishes this weekend. Now, Lewis Hamilton produced an imperious drive in treacherous conditions to win the Brazilian Grand Prix and take the Drivers' Race Championship to the wire. He's now 12 points behind teammate and rival Nico Rosberg in the standings, ahead of the final race in Abu Dhabi, which is just over a week away. The German is still favourite though, where a third-place finish will give him his first world title, even if Hamilton wins. Now, the team behind the Los Angeles bid to host the Olympics in 2024 have played down concerns over their chances of winning in the wake of Donald Trump winning the US election. The 6-time gold medalist Allyson Felix was amongst those to speak out about how America needs the Olympics now more than ever, and they will remain a front runner to host the Games in 8 years' time. Now, the latest match of the mentally draining, endurance testing Chess World Championships has taken place. Magnus Carlsen and Sergei Kaljakin are evenly matched on 2 points after 4 games in the 12-match series. The latest round was eventually won after 94 tense moves, with the winner the first to make it to 6.5 points. Well, that's just about it for this week's show, but do join us next time as the Champions League returns, where it's the battle for top spot in Group A. Arsenal welcome Paris Saint-Germain to London. So that is just about it for this edition of Games and Goals. My thanks to Tony and Nigel for their contributions. I'm Adam Reed, signing off from the Reuters studio here in London, and goodbye for now.